Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Blaze casting presentation, bringing you guys a game between the Good Studio and Play Dota. This is two teams, part of the Dota 2 Staff Cup, that are going to be going up against each other just for kind of bragging rights more so than anything else. I mean, there's not really a prize particularly involved, but, you know, having a little bit of honor of being the best at what you do, not only as an employee of a very important Dota 2 organization, but also being one of the individuals that can come out on top in these actual, in the game, in the arena here. So, one way or another, this is going to be these two teams going off. Play Dota wasn't originally in the tournament, but there were a couple teams that had to, not even 24 hours in advance, had to slip out of the tournament a little bit, slip out the back door there, and Play Dota was willing to fill the slot there. So, awesome opportunity there, but both teams are currently in the losers bracket. They have lost one game. It's a best-of-1 double elimination tournament, and we see two teams, Toby1's team, which is 4 guys, 1 girl, and 1 Dota Cup, going up against, I believe it's the European managers. Yeah, they were able to beat out the Beyond the Summit team, and for that reason are in the winners bracket finals. Anyways, that's whoever beats those two is what they're going to be going up against in the end, if they can proceed on through the lower bracket. But we still have a few rounds to go with that, and both teams just going to try to come out on top with that. As far as what the teams are made up, I know Cynthia Crescent is an active forum member of Play Dota, and I'm sure all the other individuals are as well for the Radiant. But as far as the Dire goes, we do have Mouse's manager, Paisy. Have actually played a game with him before, and yeah, he's a pretty cool guy, and is going to be playing alongside Draskell, who is their primary caster for the Good Studio, and then of course Too Good himself and Wepuz and Scruff and all of them. So pretty cool. Anyways, we're going to see them drafting up and going on into the game in right off the bat. So we see some interesting bans coming on through. We have Batrider and Keep It Alight banned out, so that's a lot of lane presence taken off the board. The Batrider potentially with just some straight up initiation. He's probably one of the best 1v1 heroes in the game right now. So taking him out along with the Magnus and the Undying, it seems like a no-brainer to pick up the Nyx under those circumstances, because it's just such a powerful hero with the Spike Carapace and the Impale. But gotta watch out, because he did give away the Darkseer there, and that allows them to build a team around him. He's powerful as a suicide laner right off the bat, but when you can actually build an AoE lineup that utilizes his vacuum to a high potential, it's really just a very great force to be reckoned with. So we'll see how that works out. But starting off with the Shadow Demon, interesting pickup there. Pretty much just going to be kind of an anti-carry in that sense. If you pick up a Life Stealer to go with the Nyx, then you're not going to have to worry about him as much because of Demonic Purge, defensive disruption, that kind of thing. So those factors do come into play, but other than that, he's just a really good support. Really good support that can do a lot of different things, very high utility, and hopefully can set up a lot of really cool kills. Beyond that, not too much to go into thus far in the draft, but they have a lot of options open. Right now, Tidehunter is picked up. Whether they want to put him on the offlane or as a support is the question of choice, but they're going to go with the Gyrocopter really early on for their carry. And that kind of shows their hand a little bit and tips their hand that they're going to be going in for a lot of flat cannon AoE damage, trying to build up that Gyrocopter with item reliance and kind of go from there. But that's not the only way to run a Gyro. You can also run a Gyro in mid, build up his skills a little bit more than his stats early on, and from there you can actually gank very effectively with him. You can roam around. Homing Missile is better in a 1v1 situation because it won't be just completely right-click down, but beyond that, he just has a lot of burst damage potential with that call down. If he can get close in with that flat cannon through an Impale or Gush, really set up some good ganks. And of course, he's just great at controlling runes, in the sense that if you try to 1v1 him on the rune spawn, anything but an illusion rune, and you're going to take a lot of damage from the Rocket Barrage. So that's something to keep in mind, but I love the pickup of Lina coming out of the Good Studio. Shadow Demon Lina combo is probably one of the most devastating ones out there. I mean, it's the same idea as the Leshrac, but pretty much what you're going to be able to accomplish there is Light Strike Array out of the disruption, and of course the Soul Catcher will amplify the damage they receive. It's just going to be really great for pickoffs here. And if they ban out an enemy Life Stealer, if the Good Studio bans Life Stealer right here, they will have no trouble getting really good kills on the lane. And if they don't, then they can just focus on the support and just ignore the Life Stealer, because the Rage is one of the few mechanics that will make sure that you don't have to worry about what's coming forward. Nyx Assassin being another one there with that Carapace. But anyways, either way, we do have plenty of options moving in towards the game. Really, like I said, it's a question of where they want to lane the Tidehunter. I think they're going to run him as a solo, possibly on the mid, potentially on the safe lane or off lane and have an aggressive tri-lane. Yeah, I think the most appropriate would be Tidehunter on the safe lane, and the Nyx Assassin and Gyrocopter go top with something, but we'll have to see. The reason I say that he should be in a lane other than where the tri-lane is going to be is because Tidehunter is, for two reasons. He has the potential to go for Ravage really early on if he can get some solo experience, move up towards level 6 rather rapidly. Along with that, if he is in the lane with the Nyx Assassin, you have two melee supports, which, don't get me wrong, they are very powerful with their Anchor Smash, their Gush, the Impale, that kind of thing, but you're generally not going to be able to harass or zone nearly as effectively without committing a lot of mana, which they just can't afford right now. Without the Keeper of Light, they're just going to have to pool Clarities a lot. I just don't see it working. So they're going to go the Nyx with the Gyrocopter, most likely, but that leaves the Tidehunter pretty much wherever the Tri-Lane isn't going to go. Because I presume this is a 3-1-1. I mean, we could see a 2.5 with a nice jungle hero still coming out, and do something that can really take advantage of the large amount of disable coming out. One thing about the Play Dota lineup right here, like I said, disable, disable, disable. They have the Impale, they have the Spike Carapace. Just those two combined together, if they can lock down both stuns of one target, that's a very long duration of disables, like 5 straight seconds. On top of that, you have the Ravage, and that's something that, as long as you don't have BKB, that's going to be big disables you can take off the board. And pretty much the benefit of disables in Dota 2, of course, you want to be able to follow that up with damage. If you can do a large amount of damage during the time that they're going there, getting spiked up, tentacled up, what have you, that's going to be a lot of potential. So the Gyro is a secure pick in that regard, with the second call down missile going to most likely land on the primary targets that you're trying to bring down really quickly. And on top of that, Barrage and Flat Cannon do a large amount of DPS as well. So great pickup there, but I think they want more damage and possibly more AoE damage on top of that. For right now, though, we're seeing Good Studio ban out on the supports, the Rubik and Jakiro taken off the board, because they already have their lanes secured as far as supports go. They have Shadow Demon, they have Lina, but they know that Nyx Assassin can't support alone. They're going to ban out the Rubik and Jakiro because those are great other heroes that supplement as far as disables go, and also put out a decent chunk of damage too. If you have a Macro Pyre on top of those 3 disables I mentioned, big money or damage coming out, and that's going to be really important there. So taking them off the board is a good general pick. The Tinker is a little unorthodox, just something I don't want to have to deal with, and I don't think it'll be that big of a deal one way or another, but just taking it off the board. And kind of similar things seeing coming out of the Radiant here. Good Studio have a flexible laning as far as Darkseer goes, so they're actually going to have to pan out the Bounty Hunter just to make sure that that's not what they're considering there. But more importantly, they're banning out a couple key carries, the Lifestealer and the Luna. They want to run the Gyrocopter as a #1. They're going to put him as the primary carry and try to give him as many items as possible. Therefore, they don't need them. They don't need the Lifestealer, even though the Shadow Demon Lina is very powerful. That's just not the lineup they're going for, and they're going to go with something else instead. But they do need a powerful mid, and they do need a powerful lane support that has a lot of presence on the lane. I'm curious to see if they want to go for a Disruptor, because the Static Storm Silence could be so powerful up against Shadow Demon Lina, but they're going to go right now for their mid Beastmaster. I think that's going to be really good for them. Actually, they could go for offlane Beastmaster. Taking a step back from this, I'd say it's based around how they want to lane it. If they want to go for an aggressive tri-lane, they can have Tidehunter on the safe lane, and then Beastmaster in the mid, and he can control runes really great, and then when he hits 6, he can gank up top to turn into a 4v3, knock down on towers really quickly. It'll be just peachy. But if they want to go for a defensive tri-lane and make sure that Gyrocopter just gets very steady farm, gets Tidehunter some experience on the neutrals, so he'll get some independent EXP, move towards that Ravage gradually. Confusing myself a little bit because, again, we've already kind of ruled out Tidehunter as a support, but not a big deal. If Gyrocopter wants sustained and stable farm, then he's going to go on the bottom lane, and from that matter, Beastmaster is going to be the better offlaner than Tide, because he can actually stack up on Ancients, get farm through that route, and through the axes that will be able to gradually AoE them down. So that's going to be pretty much, if they go defensive tri-lane, I can see Beastmaster on the top, Tide on the mid. If they go for a aggressive tri-lane, then they're going to go for the Tidehunter on the safe lane and put Beastmaster in the mid. Either way, they need a lane support. Like I said, Disruptor would be beautiful just for the Static Storm that silences Shadow Demon and Lina, render them relatively useless during that time period unless they've already gotten their cooldowns off and are just waiting for them to reset. But interesting draft of the Puck. Adds a little bit more of a dynamic lineup here, with the fact that they have a lot of potential for initiation. You vacuum them in together just a little bit, and that Dream Coil is going to keep them there. So you put a Wall of Replica down, you vacuum them into the Wall of Replica. The Dream Coil, especially if you put it on a long tether range, so like you have a couple people on the outskirts, you put the circle right here, it barely clips them, then they can't move out to retreat because they will get immediately stunned up, and it's just so much right-click coming out of those illusions will drop them down really quickly. So that's something they have to be very wary of, and it just puts a lot of team fight in the hands of a Good Studio, even if they don't have the most like super crazy, they don't have a Magnus ulti, they don't have a Tidehunter Ravage, but they just are going to be able to do quite a bit of damage just by controlling positions through Disruption, Darkseer Vacuum, Dream Coil, all those combined together. But the Witch Doctor is the lane support they're going to go with. Nyx, Gyrocopter, and Witch Doctor combined together to try to create a very powerful tri-lane here. Not sure if it's going to work very effectively if they're going up against a Puck in a 3 versus 1, based on the fact that Puck can phase shift out of that Witch Doctor's Paralyzing Cask. But it really depends. Again, if they go aggressive tri-lane, it could be good, but I would be afraid of having to do with that Shadow Demon Lina combo, because Drasku's going to go on the Anti-Mage, and if they give him an inch, he's going to take a mile, going for just a huge amount of farm and trying to carry his team to victory, though. So this is going to get interesting very, very quickly, and I think it's really the ball is in the court of Play Dota if they're going to go for aggressive or defensive. With the Beastmaster Tidehunter, I would say a defensive would be safer for their two Initiator heroes, the Tide and the Beastmaster, but all in all, it's going to make it very difficult for that Gyrocopter to farm up without risking his life every step of the way. So for the time being, it's kind of hard to call, but they're actually going to put Wepis on the mid, on the puck. So he is going for a fast bottle build, 350 gold for the time being. And we also, yeah, AM Picker for sure. And yeah, Darkseer is going to go on the suicide lane. Interesting. I think they're just going to help him ward up, and then they're going to go back towards the top. Hazy is playing a hard support. He's not going to go for some crazy aggressive thing, so it's going to be Lina, Shadow Demon, and Anti-Mage up top. They're just kind of staying down here for a little bit to help out Darkseer, kind of solidify his position, trying to knock out camps so that they can't be pulled very aggressively. But it is the defensive tri lane, again, that does put Beastmaster in a kind of awkward position with the fact that he's mostly focusing on the Ancients right now. But beyond that, just kind of putting him in a spot where if he can control his Ancients, if it doesn't get warded up and blocked off, then he will be able to get some farm with a little bit of delay. He'll have to obviously take some time, put 2 or 3 into axes, get a soul ring up eventually. Those kinds of things will come into play, but inevitably that farm will be there, and that's what he's looking for. Beyond that, we do see on the bottom lane here, this is going to be a powerful tri lane. They have a couple sentries. They can pretty much prevent whatever they want happening, but Too Good is going to have his work cut out for him on the bottom lane here. So we just see some ping action coming on through, and Malphasing has that invisibility, could use it to initiate very effectively on the mid lane here. He's going to look for a first blood up against the Nyx, which is actually their hero of choice for the mid lane. This is an option against the Puck in the sense that Puck is a pretty high int starting off, and actually grows substantially as well. Starting off with 28 intellect will allow mana burn to be relatively effective, and if the Illusory Orb isn't available, Puck is far more vulnerable as a hero in general. However, I feel that the lane presence of Nyx Assassin is very sorely needed on the bottom lane, as they've actually transitioned this into a kind of a 3 versus 3 setup. A nice Sentry Ward is actually going to catch out Paisley if he tries to go in with an Invis right now. So good position there in general. I'm not sure if there was any plan to counter ward anything up here, but it's going to fall short of the wards that have already come on through, but based on the fact that this is hiding in the trees right now. So anyways, as far as this tri lane and how it's going to work, it's actually just trying to put pressure on Gyrocopter constantly. They feel that the Anti-Mage can 1v1 versus Beastmaster effectively enough that Basilius will actually just hurt Lufe compared to Draskell, who will just mana break him on down. So it'll gradually give him this 1.3 mana regeneration, which will just be turned into extra damage from the Anti-Mage. So all in all, not really helping him too much in this position in a 1v1 circumstance. Probably thought that he was going to survive, as did I. But now, with this Observer Ward blocking off this spawn, they're not going to be able to deny the creep wave or control the positioning of the Creequilibrium. So we already see this creep wave pushing out pretty aggressively here. And as long as Too Good is careful about where he puts his Ion Shells, that's not going to change anytime soon. Gyrocopter, look at the last hits, 4 and 1 right now, and that's probably the most last hits he's going to see for the next minute and a half. Meanwhile, Beastmaster getting forced off the lane so hardcore by Draskell. He was pooled regeneration, one tango from one of his allies and a second from the other, and from there he can go for that poor man shield and just trade hits constantly and always come out on top. So that is going to put Beastmaster in a bad spot where he's actually going to lose this lane. Now Gush comes on through, the Witch Doctor, beautiful cast to put them both together, and with Malphasing kind of closing the distance, he's going to take a lot of damage. The Gyrocopter rocket coming on through will hit after the disruption goes forth. The barrage distribute a little bit, but Knight's actually going to pick up the first blood here. Yeah, so despite the illusions, the barrage and auto attacks was enough. Travis, however, will get brought down with the Dragon Slave. Lina going to finish the job there, and now they're in pursuit of Witch Doctor. Nice tango on through the trees, allowing him to just kind of retreat to a safe place. They surge on cooldown for the time being, but they don't really have the follow-up they're looking for here. So in the end, the first blood will actually go to the Gyrocopter, and from the, actually, Witch Doctor got the last hit for some reason. I thought Knight would have focused on picking that up, but didn't last hit it as much as he intended to. And with that, Tidehunter and Witch Doctor are going to be the two that come, or sorry, shoot, keep on messing that up. It's going to be Lina and the Witch Doctor that come out on top from that. So you can see they get the first blood, and that's going to give a little bit of advantage for the Radiant, but for a short time period. With this disruption, the Light Strike Array comes on through, and Witch Doctor is going to get dropped down here real quick. Couldn't even get that stun off, and that is very, very painful for them. And even getting the 29 gold bounty out of that homing missile. So really nothing positive coming out of their situation here after that first blood went down. So what we're looking at here up on top, again, Luffy is trying to go for that soul ring as fast as possible, but even with the boar, what can he really do against Draskell? He will continuously, every time Beastmaster comes up towards the creep wave, take that kind of right click damage and might go down right here. Very aggressive from Draskell, doesn't have a blink for 10 more seconds, but he does have the movement speed advantage and is going to be able to bring him down. The question is, will he survive from the tower? Yes, he will. And with that, just going to tango on through. We'll be able to blink up in a moment's time, trying to disjoint some tower attacks. I'm not sure if he's just going to go to the east, and that's what it looks like for the time being. So just blink on over here, and no problem at all. Escapes with a free solo kill, and picks up with a Ring of Health all the while. So that is going to set him up for his Battle Fury pretty early on, and that kind of makes sure that Beastmaster will guaranteed lose the lane now. Not that he was having a happy, fun time in the previous few minutes, but guaranteeing that kill, getting the solo experience, now up to 400. Draskell is having the time of his life on that lane right there. And meanwhile, I guess that, Too Good is going to be held in the line on the bottom there, trying to make sure Gyrocopter can't get too much as far as last hits goes. Not doing too bad under the circumstances. Knight sitting at 14 CS under the tower most of the time, but he can only do so much, that's for sure. In the meantime, Weppas is going to be picking up that double damage rune on bottom, trying to use it to obviously control Nyx Assassin. The phase shift not really going to prevent the non-projectile mana burn, and with that, Weppas is always going to be sitting pretty low there. That's the only advantage I can see to this lineup here, is that the lane presence of Nyx Assassin with a mana burn up against an intellect hero, he is going to generally have control as long as he can bottle Crow effectively, but for the time being, the courier is walking very, very gradually. Golden Greevel running it on through because of the fact that Witch Doctor and Tide are going to be very poor for a while. No boots on Tide. Witch Doctor has it, but is just going to be saving up for either more rewards or a very delayed Crow. So yeah, Weppas, every time he bottles up, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's kind of what we saw with the Anti-Mage. Now the Soul Ring is finished. He actually disassembled the Basilius to try to get that Soul Ring out a little faster, and it works out for him for the time being, but other than Axis, he's not going to be able to do too much to harass Anti-Mage, especially with 6.1 constant HP regen, so that's pretty powerful there. Beyond that, 3-1 in favor of Too Good's team, and we do see about 1100 gold advantage, and just about the same as far as experience goes, and that's going to keep on going on. The one thing I gotta say is a disadvantage to their tri-lane. Too Good is sitting here with pretty much distributed experience. Darkseer generally wants to be in the top 4 as far as experience per minute because he can survive so well, but right now sitting at 190, only a little bit higher than his support of Shadow Demon and Lina. So they want more kills, they want to make sure this is going to continue to be aggressive, but the fact that they're taking gold out of the pocket of Knight just by being here does help them out quite a bit, and now that nighttime strikes, they're going to go for a big kill coming on through, starting off with the Surge, looking for the disruption, pisses off on Witch Doctor, goes with the Soul Catcher as well, and he's kind of pinned in right now. Light Strike Ray comes on out, nice action from Scriff, but he's taking a lot of damage with the Barrage and the Missile. We'll get right-clicked on down, Anchor Smash, stopping a little bit of damage. Too Good with only rank 2 and Ion Shell won't be able to pursue. They do have the Arcane Boots, so they can afford to do that more and more, but support kill for a support kill, not really what you're looking for beyond just helping out Darkseer a little bit as far as his experience goes. So beyond that, really, it's interesting. I really like the fact that Scruff was able to land that Light Strike Array despite him not being in the right position exactly. Predicted Witch Doctor, of course, moving to the south, and responded in kind. But from there, it's still going to be even kills one way or another. But that's okay. The one reason that's okay is because Anti-Mage is continuously free farming, continuously getting last hit after last hit, topping out now, about to be 40 last hits in. And Draskell, there's nothing that can contest him. Even if the Nyx Assassin went up there, he really couldn't do too much versus this AM here. So Puck is actually in a position to go aggressive here with his Dream Coil, rank 1 of course, is going to be looking at his rank 3 Tide Hunter, or sorry, level 3 Tide Hunter, is going to be like, okay, well that's just food for his entire team with the fact that there's no Kraken Shell available. Popping off the Disruption, following with the Light Strike Array, Dragon Slave Soul Catcher, and of course the Waning Rift and Illusory Orb. Just too much damage coming out. Now Knight caught out by the Dream Coil. They have the vision they need to bring him down right here. Nice little bit of call down action, but some right clicks coming in from all different angles. Dragon Slave to secure the kill. Shadow Demon picking that up. Nice attempt to bring down Too Good, but he's just a little too tanky. Pops off the south, dies to the tower anyways, and with that, Witch Doctor will, obviously having committed himself thus far, drop down. So double kill for Scruff, but it did cost Too Good his salve and his life, so a little bit too much overextended underneath the tower, and he has a very high strength gain of 2.3, but being level 5, it just wasn't enough for the time being. Okay, so we are seeing Darkseer TP back on the bottom lane. Wants to keep the aggression rolling. Probably going to go for a push pretty soon. Again, they don't have the Dream Coil for 40 full seconds, but they're also not afraid of a Ravage. They had Detection. That is not going to be a Vendetta because of the fact that he just was disrupted right off the bat, but Hazy paying with his life for that really aggressive play right there. Too Good going to be able to bring down the Tidehunter because of his Ion Shell plus the Surge, but not going to be able the Gyrocopter is not going to be able to finish the job on the two supports. Darkseer will get turned around on in the end. So tried to go a little bit aggressive, thought his supports would back him up, but the salve was only just popped on Scruff, and with that, he's not going to be able to be the reinforcements that Darkseer needed at that point in time. Now Beastmaster has transitioned on down, finally got level 6, so that's something to his name, being one of 3 heroes, actually, total of 6 heroes that have gotten their ultimates now at this point in the game, but he really needs to be able to use that effectively to lock the opposition down. Draskull having the time of his life right now. 24,500 gold. He will have his Battle Fury in no time at all, and he's up against a level 5 Tidehunter. He could literally just blink and right-click Tide over and over and over until he has to leave the lane. I'm surprised he's not doing it at the moment, actually, because honestly, he could stop Ravage from ever coming to be for the time being. So, but Draskull's happy to just resort to farm as long as he's not being pushed off the lane. He will do what he needs to do. Anchor smashed up a little bit, so the right-click damage is limited. But from there, his team, without Tidehunter on the bottom lane, they can push down on bottom. Knight only has so much counter push with the Flak Cannon, and from there they will be able to try to push down on this tier 1 and bring it very, very low. In the meantime, though, there is a transition in. Lu Fei wants to get that Roaring Anti-Mage with the Tidehunter nearby to reduce the armor. He is actually going for a 2 in Gush, which means that he will have 3 armor reduction, which is what they need to bring down Draskull, sitting at 5 armor and a Poor Man's Shield. As far as on the bottom lane, I'm not sure what they're kind of joking about right here, but there is that pressure that I was talking about on the tier 1 tower. So now they're hiding out, Gyrocopter in behind the tower, and with a couple of right clicks from Lina and Shadow Demon himself, going to be able to get that rocket bounty. And now there is a Gyrocopter with a Bracer back on top. Draskull actually getting locked down right now. Beastmaster finding an opportunity to finish the job. They popped off the Gush. They did what they needed to with the Mana Burn, and yeah, Roar and Axes is enough. So while this tier 1 is dropping very quickly on bottom, they're actually going to be able to trade it 1 for 1 up on top. So nice action from Radiant that I didn't expect them to come out with. And with this call down, going to try to go for the deny on the tower. Might have that opportunity, but Lina forcing him back for the time being. That tower dropping down 50 HP, 2 hits away, actually 3. So will he get in time? He does indeed. Deny on the bottom lane with a last hit on the top, picked up by Tidehunter, giving him that much needed money to pick up the Boots of Speed. So now they are in a lot better position than I thought they would be right here. Getting that kill on the Anti-Mage, getting the tower trade that obviously was extremely favorable for them, and they're a little bit back in the game. I mean, they still have to play their team fights right, but all in all, Gyrocopter is not down and out as far as itemization goes. He's going to go for the Drum of Endurance, and once he has that durability to kind of rely back on, now that they have Ravage, that does mean that PlayDota has the opportunity to go in and do a lot right here. Draskull getting a little overconfident on that top lane, got ganked up, and they didn't have any wards. That's the big thing. Dire, no, actually look at their vision entirely. They only have 1 ward up at this point in time on the bottom, which won't be relevant now that tier 1 is down. So the pressure comes on mid lane. They don't have their ultimates exactly, but just continuing to do the push thing that they are very capable of, especially when they get the next set of Arcane Boots available.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
In the meantime, as far as support's monetary funds go, Lina is doing amazing. Wep is actually not doing too great for a number 2. He was playing the mid role, but beyond Treads and Magic Wand, Bottle, he really doesn't have too much to work with right here. Unless that was a bug out, it has just jumped up to 2,500, so I'll mostly just focus on the GPM as the early stage of the game, the net worth is a little bit variable there. One way or another, though, looking at the GPM, obviously Draskull, the uncontested champion of just farming, and he will have that Battle Fury in just 200 gold, so that will enable him to farm up, stack neutrals, flash farm creep waves, split push towers, whatever he needs to do, that is going to give him the opportunity to do so. But he does have to fear the disables coming on through. Travis actually stacking up really nicely on the neutrals right here is allowing him to farm up these aggressively, but he might die to neutrals right here. I mean, the Anchor Smash does reduce their base damage quite a bit, but he's on such a low HP threshold that he really would have to watch himself if there were any kind of global presence coming out of the Radiant, or sorry, Dire. But in the meantime, there are stacks coming on through, presumably to try to spawn those up, but there's initiation in the mid lane with that Soul Crusher disruption. Nyx Assassin does carapace it back, but with this damage coming on through, there's just nothing to stop it. Laguna Blade kind of unnecessary, given the fact he was Dream Coiled up, but finishing the job, securing the kill, and also picking up the Beastmaster at the same time. With the AoE alone, they didn't pop off the Roar, uncontested. Now they're going to go for the tier 4 in, or tier 1 in mid, as 4. Going to dive past, most likely Darkseer can go past and creep skip, burn down them with the Ion Shield, whatever they need to do. Too Good has that opportunity with the rank 4 Ion Shield. Going for the kill though, Witch Doctor going to get completely burned down here. Nice time of the Light Strike Ray. Scruff doing that over and over and over, and not missed a single one that I can tell, so just well practiced in that regard at the very least. The 2.5 second delay combined with LSA's cast animation. Really just synergizing those perfectly to get kill after kill under her belt. So Scruff is sitting as a support 4, 1, and 6. Shadow Demon at 3, 2, and 6, just contributing so much to their current. I mean, they have 10 and 9 as far as their 11 kills go. They're really setting things up for great success right up in here. In the meantime, Anti-Mage has gone for that Battle Fury before boots, and his GPM is going to skyrocket. Just kind of mark it right now, 410 approximately. He's going to keep on going up and up and up as his farm potential just increases further and further with what he's got so far. He's not going to stack this camp, which I feel might be limiting him a little bit, but all in all, he's going to be able to just burn the creeps down and walk away, allowing them to spawn again another day. Yeah, I made a little rhyme. Whatever. But Too Good will continue to push down on the bottom lane, looking for an early mechanism. I really like this just based on the fact of how early he can get it, based on how much gold he's been getting out of the lane specifically. Now looking for his damage onto Hazy at Rank 1 Vendetta, doing so much early burst that they didn't really see coming. And with that, they're just going to have to retreat. The Radiant having too much of an advantage in this position here. Lina juking around the trees. They don't have vision of her for the time being. If they had the Hawk up, they indeed would. But yeah, going on through, they actually are able to lock her down. I'm not sure. I guess they just kind of saw her around the corner, was able to pick off what they were looking for there. The Hawk being a little bit too far to the south, but whatever. Either way, they got the Roar, they got the kill, and that's putting a couple points on the board that they sorely need if they're going to keep the momentum rolling. As far as Gyrocopter's GPM, he's still far behind at 330, but at least it's something. They have that endgame carry. They just need to get some big damage on him. Possibly going for just like a straight Demon Edge or a Yasha for a little bit of mobility, whatever he needs to be in the fray. In the meantime, it looks like Witch Doctor hasn't even gotten his Death Ward just yet, mostly focusing on healing and stunning rather than even going for the Malediction build. So one way or another, we'll see how that works out for them, but the Ravage is available. Draskell farming up in the enemy jungle here, picking up Swift Ending's branch for some reason, because, you know, GG branches gonna win you the game for sure. So what you're looking at there, we do have a lot of farming going on for Draskell. He's just going to kind of play PvE Jungleman and be able to farm very aggressively. Once he gets that Manta Style, hits 3 AM, he's going to be able to just strike a very fatal chord on the enemy when he jumps in, goes aggressive, gets a Blink Initiation when a disable. As soon as a disable gets popped off, as soon as Ravage is blown or Roar goes off, he'll jump in, pop the Manta Style, and be able to deliver a lot of damage. So that's his general intent there, and I don't see any problem with what that plan is. Though we do see Beastmaster going for that Aghanim Scepter. It's a long way off for the time being, 2,400 gold, but when he gets it, he'll have an amazing, not only range of initiation with the like 950 Primal Roar range, but also be having a lot shorter of a cooldown. 45 seconds at all ranks will make sure that he always has it available to try to lock down that Anti-Mage, which is essential here. But one way to counteract that, Shadow Demon has that disruption available. 2.5 seconds, you can counteract most of the Roar just by defensively disrupting Anti-Mage whenever that is he's subjected to that. Ravage, a different story because they're both going to be disabled, but we do see some nice initiations. Oh, both teams clashing right here. The smoke, the Roar going on Too Good, the Ravage coming on through as well. That impales so much disable they can't even get a chance to retaliate here. And now even the Carapace making sure that Lina can't get much accomplished, and Witch Doctor popping off Cynthia Crescent, enabling him to do a lot of damage. So they have that damage on top of the disable, like I was talking about. Really, Death Ward is one of those abilities that you can't just let keep on going, but they didn't really have a choice in that fight. Walked right into it with that double impale, and of course the 3-man Ravage. It wasn't even a fight, it was just a slaughter. They don't have their ultimates available for this next push, but I don't think they'll need it unless there's a lot of TP contribution coming out of Too Good's team right here. But for the time being, Draskell, farm. That is all that's on his mind for the time being, as he tries to approach closer to that Manta style. In the meantime, the tier 1 will be forfeit. With a fortification is popped, and if they don't want to contest it, is kind of wasted right here. The question is, will they try to go for the deny? With Gyrocopter's cooldown still available, I don't think they should, but maybe they're just trying to buy time for Draskell to do that much more farming, that much more split pushing. Tidehunter taking the last hit on that. Will he be blinking anytime soon? He could be going for the Arcane Boots for the Magic Wand, or he could go for that Blink Dagger. He goes for the Arcane. So right now, he is just going to be able to fuel the very, very mana-dependent Radiant team for what they need. Witch Doctor has one of his own, and does Nyx as well. So yeah, 3 Arcane Boots on the Radiant right here. It's going to be very effective for making sure that Witch Doctor, Nyx, and Tidehunter can continuously stay in combat, keep on maneuvering around the battlefield, ganking, and being as aggressive as they'd like to be. But they still need smokes, because one thing I gotta say is Dire have really stepped up on their warding. I mean, if you look at their vision, they have full control of the mid lane with that ward there, and of course on the bottom rune, so there's not going to be any like cheesy Roches without committing at least Smoke of Deceit to it. Beyond that, though, they have to make sure that the Anti-Mage is farming safely. For the time being, he's just in his jungle safely, but I definitely think a ward in this kind of area would be appropriate to make sure that Draskell can just continue that farm. Ultimate Orb picked up, Yasha, and of course the recipe will be right after that. In the meantime, looking at this goal graph, it's definitely coming back into a more even matchup right at this stage in the game. They have the goal graph kind of equalizing out, and even the experience graph a little bit more in the advantage of Play Dota, as those team fights have been so successful, especially that 3-man, essentially a 4 versus 3 matchup. That was very, very effective for them, and the only one not really benefiting from that is Gyrocopter, who's been farming away himself. So right now sitting level 12 compared to Anti-Mage's 13. Not that big a deal. It's really about the gold that Draskell's got in his wallet right now, being able to farm up aggressively and pick up that Manta style, which is just so powerful there. Gotta say though, Swift Ending, able to get this solo kill. They shouldn't let this happen. No sentry wards at all. Now they can pretty much be initiated on in all regards. Too Good only had that short duration of Surge, and now he's not going to be able to get out of there. Ravage on 2. The Roar did get popped off as well. Called down on nothing though. And with that, Lufin is actually in a pretty bad spot, but the Witch Doctor ulti comes out. Will they get a silence off? It's going to be a nice jaunt to keep a Pug alive for the time being, but Too Good, the only one to currently survive, running for his life, and they don't really have any way to lock him down from there. So 2 will survive, but 3 have fallen, and with no retaliation kills coming out from Too Good's lineup, they're actually really on the back foot right now. Of course, the Ravage is now popped for another 2 minutes on cooldown, but they've lost a lot, even with Gyrocopter's ultimate missing. So they team Play Dota committed a lot to that team fight, and of course, as a result, they were able to get a lot out of it. But as soon as they come back up, if they had Fortification right now, I truly believe they could contest it. Now that all the ultis have been expended, but obviously having popped it on the bottom, they're not going to be able to get too much out of it, and of course they have to wait for Draskell to respawn as well. So in this position here, they have the Hawk at max rank, so they're able to scout out very aggressively right here. Even if it is nighttime, they have some vision of what's going on. Now they're going to go on to Too Good. He's going to pop off the Surge, but get stunned out by the Impale, and now get bursted down by the Barrage alone. And, of course, Puck can't really counter-initiate right here. Draskell wants to go in. Again, they have no ultimates but the Roar, but the Call Down. They're going to go on Night for the time being. Call Down on at least 2 right here. Nice Laguna Blade on the Soul Catcher, though. Lupe won't be able to get his Roar off right there. Shadow Demon taking a lot of damage. The Witch Doctor is stunned, proccing off multiple times over the Anchor Smash. Oh, Webus almost falling, but Magic winding up. The Mana Burn not enough on the back end of things. Black Cannon is, though. Knight picking up a kill. Draskell almost going to go down. He will not be able to blink on out of there. Now Heart and Soul wants that last right-click on Mouse Paisley, but a nice Light Strike Array, keeping alive for the time being. And I think that's going to be a disengage from there. So even without the Ravage, all they needed was and without the Primal Roar, as it was too late for him to be able to activate that, they just used the Call Down effectively, was able to focus targets as they intended to, and man, so much damage. I gotta say that Rocket Barrage versus a rank 3 Spell Shield still does a heck of a lot of damage. So he was able to burst him down, and that Flat Cannon long range, picking off the kill on the Puck. Wepus had barely gotten out of there. Magic wanded up, didn't get the last right click in, but being able to bring him down in the end. Long range kill, and now they're taking a tier 2 tower for their trouble. So really, really nice play from them, and giving it to the entire Radiant allows their team gold advantage to just, in general, be much, much higher, as Witch Doctor makes his way towards that Drum of Endurance. Gyro as well. Yeah, so they have 2 drums, unfortunately. That's a little bit of a redundancy as far as their utility from the auras, but nevertheless, they have so much momentum with those Arcane Boots, like I was saying, and, I'm sorry, both teams have 3 Arcanes. Interesting, interesting. So, I was looking at the Radiant, they have 3 Arcane Boots, but now I'm also noticing that Shadow Demon, Lina, and Darkseer have all picked up some themselves. So they really don't want to have any point in time where they're like, okay, well, we can't fight right now until we heal up in the fountain. They want to be ready for battle at any point in time, and that's generally a good mentality to pick when there's such a team fight lineup coming out of the Radiant. They need to be prepared, but the fact of the matter is, they could have been putting that money maybe towards something like a pipe for a little bit of more durability going up against. I mean, the Witch Doctor's ultimate really won't be setting them up as far as magic damage goes, but the Ravage, the Call Down, things like that really come into play. Anyways, there is the smoke up. They were really hoping Draskell will be farming the Ancients right here, but they're just going to stock up right up on this cliff here, and hopefully the enemy will fall back. Oh my gosh, just walking right on in. Goes for the Gush to start things off. Paisley in a bad spot will have to disrupt himself. No, gets roared on out, and will drop down during this disable. Popping off the Ravage just on Too Good now. Actually, Zelina getting hit on the northeastern end. Dream Coil pops on off, but here comes the Witch Doctor ultimate. Not getting silenced up. He didn't silence it. Weapons barely out of range, and now it's doing so much damage to Draskell as well. He's going to fall. He popped off his Blink, even rank 4. Not fast enough, and now buyback comes on in, and our last right click, Heart and Soul, one more. Yeah, we'll be dropped down by range creep auto attacks. Draskell looking for the kill on Knight. He has no ultimate, and that won't be a kill. So in the end, one big aspect of that team fight there was the fact that the ultimate of Witch Doctor continued. He was able to stand in this position here and use a lot of damage on Draskell, force out the buyback right there, 830 extra gold on top of his first death cost, which of course cost a lot, 16 times 30. But beyond that, yeah, Wepis went for the Waning Rift. It's an amazing radius. I mean, look at the radius on that ability there, but he was barely out of range, and unfortunately didn't prevent Witch Doctor, Cynthia Crescent, from finishing that off and doing a lot of damage there. So, all in all, that was really good team fight for the Radiant, but one thing was that Ravage was a little preemptive. They caught one person that was going to die anyways. They caught the Darkseer on the southwestern end, and I guess he didn't get his wall off, which is good news for them, but other than that, all they did was just put a little bit of Lena's activity. So all in all, the only reason they won that fight, I would consider that fight a huge victory, was the buyback committed by Draskell. He wanted to clean it up, and yes, the Witch Doctor did fall on the back end, but they weren't able to get the Gyrocopter. So that was a big victory in that sense, because it's just less net worth available for the Anti-Mage. He's still at the top. He's been farming great, but committing a buyback like that, of course, delays the Battle Fury, or sorry, the Manta Style, which he pretty much has money for now. So he just needs a little bit more farm, but Radiant Wards, keeping aggressive. They're going to put up a sentry most likely to counter-ward that up, but for the time being they at least know what's going on. And the exact same thing coming out of the Nyx and the Tidehunter, doing really good job, and it's just ward wars right now, trying to get the upper hand on the enemy, as right now the only one with a Blink Dagger is actually the Nyx Assassin. Now, some of you may speculate, it's like, oh, go for a Necronomicon that adds a lot of mana burn, possibly to stop the Anti-Mage, or just go for a lot of damage, and if they AoE it down, that of course is the true strike of the melee creep. But the big deal is that getting the initiation off is what they've been looking for all game long, and Nyx is a great hero to do it. If you're in a bad spot, you can always play Swag Carapace, but you can't rely on that Vendetta to close the distance in a high-level game with so many sentry wards now on the field. Either way, with that, Tidehunter is going to be working his way most likely for a Pipe of Insight, and that of course will allow them to fight that much more proactively. Pipe of Insight actually on Beastmaster didn't catch that, so now they are in a really great spot where they can deal with the fact that Puck initiates with his 3 main abilities, the Lina bringing down a little bit of damage of her own. All that will be relatively negated. I mean, the Luna Blade will still definitely do some damage to somebody, but all in all, if Beastmaster gets a pipe in the middle of a fight and gets a roar off, that fight is going to be very difficult for Too Good to do anything but retreat from. So, looking at levels again, the Anti-Mage is topping out as he continues to farm. Draskell just wants to carry this game hardcore. But beyond that, the Gyrocopter is catching up, and Call Down will be coming on through rank 3 in just a little bit, on top of that BKB that's already been finished up. So that's pretty cool. Now, Swift Ending pops off that Vendetta, and so much damage with that Mana Burn and the Carapace. Tries to blink in aggressively. Will get some damage off with that Spike Carapace, but with that Vacuum, so much damage coming out of Draskell. He's looking for that ultimate, but his team is helping him out so much. Now the Tidehunter trying to do a retreat Ravage, but I don't think it's going to come to much right now. Draskell rifling down Lufe. He's definitely going to take a fall here, and most likely Travis as well, but he does get a kill on the Puck, and almost on Paisley, but in the end, there's just going to be too much damage forthcoming, and the problem was that Radiant initiated without Gyrocopter. He's still a huge brunt force of damage, and just farming up creeps for the time being. He didn't contribute nearly as much as Draskell did coming in on the back end of that fight. So, nice pipe, like I said, good generally did good initiation from the Nyx Assassin, almost bringing down the puck, but he committed himself a little bit too aggressively to somebody that has that kind of survivability with the Blink Dagger, with the phase shift, and of course with the defensive disruption. Those factors combined together, it was an overextension on the part of Swift Ending, and from there the Ravage was of course delayed from Travis, not able to get that across. So it was not a good team fight, and it gives Too Good a little bit of breathing room. His team, good studios, I guess I should call them, but Draskell will be able to not only finish that Manta style, but move towards another big item like a Heart of Tarrasque. Alright, so beyond that, other big items on the board. We do have a Vanguard up for Darkseer, but I'm pretty sure that's been around for a while. It's not going to actually make that big of a deal as the game goes longer and longer, as heroes are just going to hit harder and harder, but for the time being, it does help his durability just a little bit. On the other hand, we do see a mechanism in the works for Witch Doctor, not going for a BKB or anything of the sorts there, just knows that he wants to be able to keep his team alive, and using his W heal over time to accomplish that along with the mech is generally going to be favorable for him and his team. But they need really good initiation from Swift Ending if they want to keep this action going. They have great vision control, not only from the active wards they've been putting down, which have been relatively successfully counteracted, both on the plateau and on this position here, but the fact of the matter is you can't constantly counter that Hawk. You're always going to have some vision across the board. You see this Hawk just giving so much understanding of where Draskell's farming, what he's doing, and the fact that he has a vitality booster and is a little bit harder to bring down. So with that, and using that nice scout mechanic, they could really get the right initiation off to try to pick somebody off before Darkseer can come into play, pop off that wall, pop off that vacuum, etc. As the game goes later, and now that most of the Tier 1s have fallen, the only one standing is a Tier 1 top for the Radiant, it means that the next objective for any kind of pickoff, if they go for just a quick disruption and Lina combo, they're going to be able to turn that into a Roche kill. They're going to be, both teams are at a point where they have so much damage, they can take this down in a relatively safe time period as long as one opponent is locked down. Preferably the Gyrocopter if the good team wants to bring that down, but generally speaking, he's either farming in a very safe position or in an aggressive one with a lot of backup. Either way, Bird not going to get scorched, going to be able to avoid that just barely, but expire nevertheless. So in the meantime, Draskell just going to be farming up for the time being and trying to counter ward, make sure that they don't have any wards in this position here, because that's a great ward to try to negate those that love to farm Ancients non-stop and contest any stacked Ancients, and that's pretty common when you have a Battle Fury, Hantam Mage, and a Gyrocopter on the field. But beyond that, they're kind of just goofing around right here in the northeastern jungle. The fact that there's a Dire Ward on this plateau means that they're not surprising anyone. They know that 3 to 4 people are in their jungle, and they're not going to go anywhere near that for the time being with that Ravage available, with the cooldown to follow up. Just don't want any of that. They're just going to defend on their Tier 2 for the time being, and Illusion is just getting bursted down by Dragon Slave, vacuums, that kind of thing. But it is a pretty long cooldown. You have to watch that. Beyond that, we are looking at a net worth of 14k coming up on the Anti-Mage. He's going to be moving towards bigger and better things really quickly. For right now, I'm going to save for buyback in case he is in a position where he can clean up like he thought he could before. And that's going to be most effective for them for the time being. But the big deal is just his sheer raw stats coming out of this level 20 right now. He has an agi gain of 2.8. He has that 1.2 from strength. And the fact of the matter is putting +2 to all stats every single time he levels up is adding a lot of durability and DPS coming out of Anti-Mage right here. So more and more his illusions are going to be harder to deal with, and it's going to make it so that Travis actually has to time his Ravage to after the Manta style and not before, which is a kind of delimiting factor there. Too Good taking a lot of damage from that mana burn, puts himself in a nice vacuum position. The Ravage comes out on 2 though. Call down will go off on everybody with the nice Dagon. That means the Shadow Demon and the Lina are dropping down, and Knight with that BKB, just a monster, obliterating everybody but Draskell, trying to go toe-to-toe with him, bringing down Lufe really quickly, but a nice impale, and it's going to be Anti-Mage just having to blink on out as his illusions have fallen, and there's really not too much more to contribute to the fight. So a little bit of Wall Rothika halting their retreat. They'll have to kind of go around. Oh my gosh, he gets killed by Darkseer's illusion. Big mistake walking through that wall. I don't know exactly why he thought he could handle it, but obviously Beastmaster's too strong for himself. Too strong for his own good. Anyways, Draskell fully healed is going to try to defend this tower effectively, destroying a little bit as far as long-range damage coming forth from the Flat Cannon, but beyond that, with the misstep by the Lufe, they're not going to have the aura, the attack speed aura they need to make sure they can follow up and push down that tower aggressively. But in the meantime, that was amazing action for Gyrocopter, jumping in right then after that Ravage, which hit on 3 good people in a good position, opened up a window of opportunity where Gyrocopter can just push on through and just completely penetrate the weakness of Good's positioning there, going on straight on into the middle, got flanking on pretty much every enemy hero right there, and with BKB, who was there to stop him? He now has Butterfly, which means until Anti-Mage gets the MKB, which presumably would follow his Heart of Tarrasque, Tarrasque is going to have a harder time DPSing him than Knight is going to be DPSing the Anti-Mage. So unless they're going for a good pickoff, like they are kind of swooping in right now, Vulture's trying to just lock down their prey right here. I think they might be able to manage the lockdown, but the BKB is available. He could just TP on out, but it's on cooldown for 30 seconds. So in the meantime, just going to barrage and allow the Witch Doctor TP to scare them off for the time being, since they're Crescent only on 300 mana for the time being, though. So, I'm trying to think. As far as that team fight goes, it was pretty much all about the action from Gyrocopter. Now that he is so farmed up, he has evasion, has a good effective HP with that BKB, and not going to be affected very much at all by anything more than the right-click damage from Anti-Mage and Darkseer's Illusions. So from there, he, for 9 straight seconds, is going to be able to do a powerhouse of damage that cannot be underestimated. He can just completely obliterate the enemy team if he finds himself in the right position, just like he did there. As far as Blink Daggers, the Tidehunter has one of his own in the stash now, and once he uses that to initiate, it's going to be very difficult for Good to find a safe place. Good Studios is just on the back foot right now. I've got to say, the Radiant having it's just a great golden experience advantage. Not as high as it was as far as experience goes, but still a very, very good amount. I mean, it's, no better way to say it is just they have a solid, stable advantage, and now with this kill on Too Good, they're going to get even more potential. They're probably going to go for Roche. I mean, they could go for the tier 3, and I wouldn't blame them because they do have their ultimates available. But Roshan is another great thing to have on a Gyrocopter, who could just, as soon as he comes back to life, completely like 1 versus 4, and so I think that's what they're going to go for right here. Yeah, so they're going for the smoke. Actually, they might be like pretending they're going for the Roshan, instead transitioning down to Draskell, who has that TP scroll already, and most likely is just going to blink to the trees and TP away, as there are just so many missing, but they're all smoked up right now. Tide will get revealed in just a moment's time. He's hiding in the jungle, and yeah, now they have been revealed. Anti-Mage just going to TP on away to safety. So they're going to be looking at Roshan right here. There's no lifesteal in the Gyrocopter, so although he is evading effectively, has to have a little bit of assistance to be able to bring that down without, bringing themselves down to critical HP. Nevertheless, attack speed aura helping that out in that regard, and they're going to go for Manta style on Gyro. Love that pickup. He doesn't have enough for buyback right now, so a bit of an all-in, but with the Aegis Immortal that's about to come forward, he shouldn't have any trouble in the next couple of fights. So Draskell, farming up for the time being, has a Reaver available if that's what he wants to go for, but for the time being, just doing what he can to keep farming up the creep wave very aggressively with that Battle Fury that he's had for a very long time. So you can definitely see why he's at 285 creep kills, is just because he's always on the jungle, always on the lane, always trying to do whatever he can, but he needs to get a TP scroll to help out his team for the time being. Picks up the Reaver from the Secret Shop, but without a TP scroll for the time being, right now Radiant realize they can push up on this tier 2, and even on the tier 3 despite the fortification. So AM will split push a little bit, trade off that tier 1 tower, probably leave his illusions to farm with the lane while he teleports back, but I believe this team fight is generally going to be favorable for play Dota. They definitely have the initiation they need with Swift Ending, and as long as they don't overcommit themselves, and they get all of their big cooldowns off with the Roar, pretty much just all their ultimates straight up, that means that they'll be able to set up Gyrocopter for guaranteed damage, and of course he has plenty of survivability with that Aegis intact. So this is going to be big. What is going to be coming forth with this next push, I honestly can't see how Too Good can survive against a double Gyrocopter. I mean, if the Aegis wasn't there, just survive on through the cooldowns, get some buybacks, they will be able to hold, but Draskell in a very aggressive position right now, has finished up his Heart of Tarrasque and knows he needs it for the next fight, otherwise he will just get wiped out really quickly during a Roar, even with that disruption defensive. Hawk scouting out for the time being, just keeping tabs and knowing that they're in their base. What they're going to kind of do is gradually just kind of asphyxiate them as far as trying to make sure that they don't continue to farm up aggressively with Draskell mostly stuck in his base. I mean, he will get some creeps trickling on through from this position here, but he doesn't want to leave the top right corner of the map at any point in time. There is no map vision for the Dire. Look at this right here. They see their creep wave going through the mid lane, and that is it. Otherwise, they are trapped inside their base with absolutely no idea. Enemies could be lurking in any position, flanking on in, smoke or not. They can just blink on in, try to get one quick roar off. And how's the Ags doing? No, he's mostly just focusing on that point booster for health and mana, and not really focusing on the Ags itself. And now there's going to be some counter initiation. One really, really good mindset. There's going to be a quick pause coming on through. But anyways, one really great mindset is if things aren't going the way they're supposed to, if you're not really having the momentum that you need and you know that something needs to change, something's got to give, smoke is the right course of action, generally speaking. Smoke is a lot more effective if you have vision on the opposition, as specifically the good studio team does not. But if they go together as 5 and the Radiant team isn't ready for it, if they're like, okay, they're turtling up from their base, we'll spread out a little bit, you can get a pick off and you can turn things around just a little bit, and that could be really nice. But one way or another, they have to make something happen here, or I gotta say this Gyrocopter is gonna start getting more and more out of hand. Draskull's a great carry. He's a great player in the first place, and he's farmed very, very well, but the fact is, he's gonna have to go for an MKB next, which means that Gyrocopter's right-click damage is gonna be able to work very effectively against this Anti-Mage, and in the end, 18 armor, 2500 health, it's nice, but Gyrocopter has more, not only for Draskull specifically, but for the enemy team. And with the BKB active, still an 8-second duration, that Butterfly will allow him to effectively just man mode on the opposition with all the disables they have available. So it puts Draskull in a pretty rough spot. And for the time being, it looks like he's actually going to use the smoke to farm, and this could put him in a really bad spot. Swift Ending trying to start things off. He has no detection right here. Are they going to get the pick off they're looking for? They start off with the Impale. Will he get the blink? And they're actually baiting him to go and get Ravaged up right here. Nice action. Go for the Ravage. I'm not sure why they're not committing it. They want to save it for the team fight. Now the Wall of Replica comes through, popping off the pipe, popping off the BKB, and the cooldown will go on through. But Darkseer is not going to be dropped down here with the Surge coming on out. I honestly think they could have just fallen back from the wall, but they got a little bit overexcited about it and now taking a lot of damage right here. He still has the Aegis of the Immortal, but for the time being they realize they can't push up without creeps, and with this wall it's even harder. So the position, they can circumvent it, they can go in to try to strike, but they have to get the right blink initiation off, and Tidehunter being on low life, they have to focus on getting him up over time with the restoration of Witch Doctor. In the meantime, all the other lanes are getting pushed out. As far as Aegis timing, they still have a good 3 minutes left on it. It's only halftime, so they are able to continue this if they can keep Tidehunter topped off. But they need him to initiate, they need him to get a good Ravage off. And, yeah, like I said, if they had popped off the Ravage there when they forced out the blink to the east, I think that Beastmaster was in a position where he could have followed up with the Roar, but they were kind of worried about the other 4 retaliating. They were worried about a good Waiting Rift Dream Coil, and of course the Wall of Replica Vacuum. Those factors coming on together, it's hard to work against, and of course the Heart, they would have committed a lot, so I'm not surprised they didn't. I just thought that it would be a really great way to start a team fight off with their momentum and their shift, and forcing the enemy to come out and meet them would have been a great position there, but couldn't guarantee a kill, so I understand one way or another. Witch Doctor has the mechanism coming out on the courier right now, and it looks like also Travis picking up his plate mail that he had in the stash for some time. Now the bottom lane, actually, tier 2 is dropping down. There's 5 range creeps as well as the siege creep coming down, but here comes the initiation. The call down on Too Good. He doesn't have time for the Wall of Replica. Will get bursted down. The Roar to make sure of it. The pipe pops off. Draskull on the run. The Roar isn't available, but the Dream Coil. Wepus is gonna be able to jaunt on out of that phase shift and survive for the time being, but now looking for the tier 3. Courier taking some hits, but not a big deal. Travis is down on the ground, so he's not gonna be able to get the plate mail, but beyond that, fortification is popped off. How are they going to be able to bring this down right here? They do have a decent advantage, but the Wall of Replica comes on through, looking for the vacuum, hits on only Lufe, and doesn't get actually the illusion to pop off. Now the stun comes bouncing around. Draskull and Too Good stunned up a lot, and now Draskull's going to have to retreat once more, otherwise get risk getting dropped down. Lina on low, well, plenty of life, but still a very squishy hero. Just going to try to do some long-range harassment while the focus turns over to the racks. With this Manta Style coming up in 6 seconds, they'll be able to obliterate these racks, and still the Aegis is intact. Again, here comes Wipers with a nice initiation. Draskull coming in with a beautiful Mana Void. Doesn't get time to do the ultimate, and now Knight taking a lot of damage. will drop down, the Aegis will pop, and now try to finish it off for a second time over. The Manta Style still up. Anti-Mage goes in for Sincere Crescent, is able to finish her off in just a second with the next blink. In the meantime, Gyrocopter in the fray, doing a lot of damage to just about everybody with that flat cannon. Paisley will take a fall godlike spree. Now, he can't go toe-to-toe with Draskell. Too much mobility. So popping off the drum charge, trying to run on out of here. Draskell has a lot of blinks up his sleeve, though. Doesn't have a TP scroll. I think that's the biggest issue. Because the Aegis the Immortal was there, he didn't go for the blink. Nice rocket, nice Anger Smash coming out, and they're going to try to turn it around a little bit. Draskell going to go 1v1 versus this Wep. It's so low life. He doesn't have a way of getting out, blinking away. No, it's Anti-Mage's blink. On the other side, it was Wep is still getting locked down, and without much support, Draskell, too low life to pursue. So he's going to fall back for the time being, and I got to say that was a big win for the Radiant. I mean, they did lose the Aegis, but that was inevitable. Draskell getting picked off. Beautiful initiation by Swift Ending, and too good. Going to take a lot of damage, if not take a fall. Now there is a buyback from the Gyrocopter. He did get dropped down by the damage coming out of both Lina and the Darkseer, but Swift Ending, literally ending that very, very quickly with the Mana Burn. And Draskell popped his own buyback, so look at this. 5 minutes on both the cooldown of the two carries, and this is big. This is pretty much every death counts right here. Obviously, death count in general for a lot of gold, one way or another, but this means that if you can get a kill on a level 22 Gyro or a 24 Anti-Mage within the next 4 minutes, that's going to be a really, really large impact on how the game shapes. If they're going to go for a Roche as a result, if they're going to go for a Rax. Now, mind you, Roche won't be up for the next 4 minutes, so that's not really applicable to what I'm talking about, but man, that was just such an extended fight, but really, really awesome to see it go back and forth like that and see these two carries just man mode on each other with the amount of items that they've accrued over this extended fight. I mean, look at this net worth. Now Gyrocopter on top, 20k compared to 18k, and I gotta say, Anti-Mage is getting to a point where he's going to start falling off. If he can actually overcome that disadvantage and get more farm than the Gyrocopter, just use his blink to be mobile and active, he can farm up nicely. He can still come out on top, but he is currently on the back foot, not only in 1 versus 1 net worth of the carries, but also looking at the entire team's about 8,000 and actually about 10k as far as gold and experience advantage for the Radiant respectively. So Play Dota in a really nice spot to come out on top of this losers bracket matchup here. So tensions are high. Nobody wants to get picked off here. They do pop off the Sentry Ward really good to make sure that Swift Ending cannot finish off what he's intending to do for the time being, but he's working his way gradually towards a Hex. It means that there is no buyback available for the time being, but if he can get that Hex off, he can really lock down the Anti-Mage hardcore. 3.5 seconds on top of the long duration stuns that he already has available. It's going to be very difficult for AM to survive up against that, and now the Ags is also finished, so just toning it down a little bit before the next engagement breaks on out. No, the Roar comes on through. Will they get the disables they're looking for? They're going to pop off maybe the Ravage. Now, I mean, he has too much for the heart. The Manta Style comes on through, doing the damage with Call Down. The Barrage, he will blink on out. The Call Down Missile will secondary, won't be able to blink on anything. Nice action from that Wall of Replica, but Heart for Sincere Crescent going to finish it off, do exactly what he needs to do. In the meantime, oh my gosh, a nice pick off on the Shadow Demon. A little bit of Dream Coil to hold them in place for the time being, but they're like, okay, we'll just take the Rax, we'll just put the damage pressure there, and they're really not too worse for wear, popping off the mech a little bit, but now they're going to transition in towards the bottom, and again, every death counts. Shadow Demon in the grave will not be able to buy back, and of course they're going to push down on this tier 3 tower right here. Draskell has to defend this, has the Manta Style back up, and here we go for this, what could be the last engagement of the game. The Ravage is unavailable though, and they're going to go for the Roar again. That Ragadan's cooldown. Draskell taking a lot of damage, but Lupe might be the one that takes the fall instead. Draskell getting stunned up so hardcore. Call down coming on through, a couple more right clicks, and he does drop. Again, that is for complete death for the next 100 seconds. That should be a good game. Draskell calling it now. Able to bring down him just barely in that short time period, using the Butterfly, using all their cooldowns, and getting those disables off. Draskell getting picked off, and good game, well played indeed. Play Dota going to take this one out, surprisingly. I didn't know if I had it in them based on the fact that there was very delayed farm on Knight, based on that aggressive tri-lane, and the exact opposite happening with Draskell picking up an early Battle Fury, but they transitioned well. They put their disables exactly what they needed to, and they're going to come out on top, of course, as a result. So really, really fun game, really active, and well played to Play Dota, I gotta say. In the end, it's definitely 100% MVP going to be going to the carry that was able to come back as far as farm goes and actually come out on top in the end. Let me look at the net worth right here. 25k, did so much in team fights, 18, 2, and 12, only getting picked off twice, and those were mostly in the middle of fights, big 5v5 fights. and in the meantime doing so well as far as farm, almost keeping up with an anti-mage battle, like a, I gotta say, 16-minute Battle Fury. I didn't time it, but anyways, it was a very early Battle Fury, and he kept up with it very effectively in creep score as well as, of course, in last hits and assists. So really, really nice action from there. A little bit of a last-ditch effort coming out of the Dire here, but it's just going to be to no avail in general. Nice wall of replica. But all in all, well played to play Dota here. This was really, really good action. So, finish it off. There's the last couple deaths, and finally, Draskull's about to respawn, only to watch Mega Creeps start coming forth from the 6 racks that have fallen. And with that, that was a really good game. I really enjoyed that one, actually. That was very, very solid, very aggressive, and although it seems one-sided in the 41-26, you can see right here they started out in a really bad position on the back foot, but they got the teamfight action together. Holy crap, that damage coming out of Witch Doctor is just popping off that big, big damage from that Mana Void and obliterating 2 people simultaneously, but in the end, the Ancient will fall, and it's going to be a good game. Draskull, just let him end it. Oh my gosh, there's no reason. He knows it's over, but, you know, whatever. Big, big mana burns coming on out. But yeah, he's looking for evasion of his own. It's just too little too late. So yeah, I think there was a really good shutdown on Draskull, though, dying 6 times over at this point on. He popped a buyback pretty early in the game to try to do a cleanup on mid, and it almost worked out for him, but it cost him too much gold. He couldn't get the Talisman of Evasion out, even after the Heart of Tarrasque, so even with the Heart, he didn't have that much effective HP, and of course, just Gyrocopter, beating him in on farm, now picking up the Divine Rapier to kind of seal the deal right here. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning into this cast. I really, really enjoyed casting it. This was, of course, the Join Dota, or sorry, 4PL Staff Cup number 2. It's part of this matchup of Play Dota versus the Too Good team, and unfortunately that does mean that Too Good's team and the Good Studio in general will end up getting be eliminated from the losers bracket here, as it's only a best of 1. But all in all, they fought well, they fought aggressively, and yeah, they put up a very, very effective fight throughout this tournament here. So we'll still have a couple more rounds coming on through. We're gonna have I'm gonna have a co-caster, Blightwind, coming on in just a minute to co-cast with me for the next couple games. But in the meantime, this was just a really cool game. Let it end. Okay, so, but yeah, as I has said multiple times before, I don't think the Dream Coil Initiation was as good as it needed to be. The first couple were amazing from Weapons, but it just couldn't contest the fact that that BKB came out so early on night, followed up with a lot of big right-click damage. So, Gyrocopter, you can see with that Divine Rapier, of course, providing so much right-click with that Flat Cannon. I gotta say, they committed a lot to it with that third in the draft, with them third-picking Gyro, but it paid off in this game 100%. And now we just watch the fireworks as the Ancient falls. Nice, nice. Perfect timing for that. So, good game indeed. And that was really, really fun. Alright, so there we go. You have your scoreboard. You have visualization of just how awesome that Gyro was with a 687 gold per minute, beating even an anti-mage that sat out at 560. Just dominating the team fights was really where he needed to be. The call downs were not always on point exactly. They're sometimes just a little bit shifted off to kind of do an aerial denial aspect, as well as the damage that they were able to contribute. But all in all, forcing the opposition back, not allowing them to do what they wanted to do, which is just get some big combos off with the Disruption, the Light Strike Array, Soul Catcher, Laguna Blade, all that good stuff. Didn't really happen because that BKB came out so early, and I gotta say, props to, once again, props to Knight for being able to farm up that aggressively and come out with 340 some last hits in only a 48-minute game when he was aggressive trial laned against. So really cool stuff, really awesome play. I'm looking forward to the next game, but meantime, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Blaze Casting. You can check out my Twitter, YouTube, up above there. It's just under the extension of /BlazeCasting, and that's where the VODs will be uploaded, as well as me updating whenever I'm streaming on whichever channel I happen to be on. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really fun cast, and I'm glad to be able to cast it. So, catch you guys in the next game. Have a good one.